All right, this is Nick from Hybrid Physiques going over the Mr. Olympia finals and final call out here. We're just going to focus on basically the top four guys, maybe five. Maybe we'll throw Kukalo in there as things go. So we have William Bonac, Rolly Winkler, Hadi Chopin, Brandon Curry, and Dexter Jackson. So everyone lining up here. Steve Weinberger, the head judge, tends to move guys around a lot. It used to mean something, not so much anymore. Right off the bat here, biggest problem with Dex this year is this midsection. You can tell it's still tight from the sides, but you could see a protrusion right here in the middle. And that just comes with age. That retires a lot of bodybuilders. Gave Phil Heath the issue last year. Big shot here. Biggest differentiation between Hadi and Brandon. Look at the legs, the quads. We can see the separation. We can see the thickness in Hadi Chopin. What goes along with that is that blocky look if we could see the sweep. So if we draw a straight line, here's the quad sweep coming up, and the separation here to the obliques. Brandon Curry's is significantly larger just because his waist is a little smaller. That gives us that nice streamlined physique and look. Rolly Winkler had some water issues. This is the afternoon show, so he's definitely a little tighter. However, still not as good as last year. Dexter Jackson just fading with time. Here we are with the symmetry round. Hadi Chopin. I mean, coming from being a professional bodybuilder here, one of the general rules is across the delts here, it should be relatively level. This is not the best look. It's not the most aesthetic look. This is an issue with posing. And I know it's a little easy for me to sit here and say, oh, he's posing wrong. The reality is he would probably look much, much better if he dropped that shoulder down 2 to 3 inches and had a nice horizontal line here. William Bonac came in nice and tight. He was tight in the first round as well. I had Bonac and Chopin above Curry in the first round. Here we are with the rear shot. Problem number one with Hadi. Those delts right here. We probably has a little bit of SEO or site enhancement oil, maybe some sort of synthol or inflammatory agent to give him a wider appearance. We can see it a little better when we're actually squared up in those rear shots. Hadi looks like another quarter turn here. And again, Hadi with that crazy elevated shoulder. He's got to dip that down. But if we look at the tightness and conditioning here, Brandon Curry, the obliques here are watery. We don't see those nice fish gills. That's what it's called, a fish gill look. On Hadi Chopin, nice flat midsection, nice flat midsection. Nice, great delts. This is a great example here. This bubble, lacking definition, lacking look. That is a telltale sign of some sort of SEO. And you trade it off. You trade off the details and you get those blurred lines, but you get a little more width. So it really depends on which physique we're looking at. Dexter Jackson, 49 years old. The first thing to go is your stomach. He is tight. He is in shape. Is he holding a little water? Yes. Here's the problem. This midsection is bowing out here. And this is the kind of the first thing that retires bodybuilders. Again, there's not much you can do about it. He really should be sucking that midsection in as hard as he can, which he probably is. Again, that just comes with age. Brandon Curry, nice and flat in that midsection. And rolling up to front double bicep or front relaxed. Rolly just as big as a house. And looks like Dex is having a little fun up there, just pushing him off. And setting up for a front double bicep here. Again, biggest problem with Curry is this faded midsection. It could be a couple things. It could be number one, a water issue. It could be a diuretic issue. It could be a carb loading issue. But typically with a carb loading issue, you are a little flat. And Curry is as full as he could possibly be upstairs. So I don't think it's the carbs. It's really just getting rid of that excess of water. And Bonac hits his front double bicep on a little bit of an angle. He doesn't have that aesthetic physique that everyone else has on this stage right now. So he's got to do the very best he can to compete with that. Front lat spread. Again, this is Mr. Olympia. These guys have been doing this for years and years. They have been professionals. They have won shows. But the posing is a little it's a little problem here with Bonac. We could see him pinching in. And it could be for a couple reasons. It could be, number one, his chest doesn't get very detailed. If he opens up his shoulders, like look at Kukalo here, big, wide base upstairs. Bonac is not doing that. He's pinching his body in, which is not giving him the best look. And Kukalo just midsection is just watery. He's not too tight there. Hadi Chopin, great example. Nice, wide, open shoulders here. We could probably get a little more width out of Bonac if he pulls these elbows back a little bit. So you bring that chest up, you pull those elbows back, and we're going to get that nice wide look. Hadi probably has some of the largest quads on shape in comparison to his physique. Bonac, just rock solid, super hard, super tight. And here's a good shot. Oh, and Dexter Jackson here, again, posing. I hate to harp on it, and you probably can say, what are you talking about? These guys have been doing this forever. They know what they're doing. This is an issue. This is not a great shot for him. He's not hitting that shot correctly. There's two ways you could hit it. Number one, you could show the density of your body by hitting it like Dex is hitting. However, he is not the biggest guy on stage. That's not a smart move, in my opinion. He should be opening up, kind of to how Curry was, really squaring his shoulders up to the crowd, pivoting his upper body an extra 15 degrees. Here's a great comparison with Rolly. Super, super thick body. He doesn't need to hit it facing the crowd. He doesn't need to necessarily show his width shoulder to shoulder. He's showing his density chest to back. Dex just doesn't have that. He really should be turning into the crowd a little more. Brandon Curry looking great in that shot. Looking over to the back where Curry has a little bit of problems as far as his rear shot goes. He doesn't have that deep density that someone like Chopin or William Bonac has. Rolly Winkler also kind of narrow in the back region. Steve Kuklo, his weak point is the back region. Doesn't have a lot of those details. Hadi's got a pretty strong back. He's super, super wide, super dense, and looking great. Nice and tight again. Curry just holding water in the glute region. You're not seeing a lot of striations. Holding water in the hamstring is not really dense. There's not deep, deep cuts in those hamstrings like we see in Hadi next to him. Dex, just a signature rear lat spread. Looks solid, looks saturated. And when I'm talking about saturation, we're talking about the gap from the lat to the arm. Rolly is the most saturated bodybuilder on stage, and the goal is to always have the most saturation to look the biggest. So this gap should be nil. There should be not a lot there. And you do the best you can, but that's just some things we're looking at when you're actually judging a competition is the saturation of that body, the width of it in comparison to the structure in the arms. Great shot of the density here. So as we're talking about weakness and densities, if you look at Dex, it's a little blurry, but you can see he doesn't have a lot of density in the upper back. Brandon Curry, the same thing, not a lot of density. Then we roll over to someone like Hadi. Look at the spine, this canal in the spine. That's muscle coming off of the back. When we're speaking of density, you're speaking of front to back width. Same with Bonac, super dense back. He's got a great little channel here that actually displays that. Steve Kuklo, weak shot for him. Not a lot of density there. He's just a big, big, tall guy. It's hard to fill up that frame. He needs to get a little more muscle on there. And quick side shot. Anytime anyone's transitioning, you're supposed to hit that side relaxed, then progress into your either side tricep or whatever shot you're hitting. Not the best angle here, so we didn't get a good view on that. Curry was having a little bit of distension problems. He's having it now, right when he's sitting here breathing and walking around. This section here, he should be keeping that super tight. You're being judged at all times. And Weinberger moving Dexter Jackson over to Steve Kuklo for a quick comparison, just to make sure. I think it's pretty well known. Steve is kind of in the end of this call out, and that's fine. He's probably thrilled with that. He's either top 5 or top 6. I forget how many guys are on stage there. Again, Dexter Jackson, just with age, that midsection is starting to bulge. Hadi, biggest knock on him is that wider waist in comparison to Brandon Curry. You can see the lines here. Hadi actually is the only gentleman who's hitting a vacuum in the open division. I hate this. This is something Phil Heath does with that modified side shot. You shouldn't have this round bubble look to your midsection. And there's a reason Bonac is keeping his arm here. He doesn't do a front ab and thigh because he has a thick waist. He's keeping his hand here to block his midsection. It's a very, very smart move. So switching over some stills, you could see Bonac obviously pointing out the other gentleman's arms as he has the largest arms on here. And if you look at the condition, you could see the tightness of Bonac. Not the greatest shot for Hadi, except you could see his obliques are super, super shredded. Overall, I could see the decision going either way between these three. I'm not mad at the decision of giving Curry the victory. Overall shape definitely comes into play. I don't think Curry was that far out of condition as far as someone like Derek Lunsford to actually cost him the title. So I'm not mad at the decision. It's really an eye opener for someone like Hadi coming up from 212. And it was always thought that a 212 competitor couldn't really compete with the Open unless they put on extra size. Hadi kind of disproved that, so I'm very interested to see next year if we're going to see Derek Lunsford move up to the Open, maybe Flex Lewis return to the Open. Obviously, Phil Heath will be back. Hopefully, he gets that gut in check. It'll be a pretty good show for next year. So again, that's my review of the 2019 Open. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. That's Hybrid Physiques out.